Welcome back to this course on the Custom Cabinet Planner. In this course we will continue looking at the various sections of the Procedures page, starting with the Delivery Procedures section. Keep in mind that our objective is to at best eliminate or at least minimize the communications gap prevalent at so many companies these days. Let's begin. So coming down to our Delivery Procedures, we have two subsections: hooking up trailer, unloading truck or trailer. And so for those that have trailers, this would be relevant on the trailer portion of it. And we will jump in here just for a second because there's just a couple things that we want to do. This could be just any list of things that you want as a reminder. In this case, all we're saying is check that there's gas in the van. And obviously the desired result would be that they always fill up on the way back so that you're never leaving needing to stop and get gas. But whatever suits your company, put any kind of reminder lists here, things that they need to do before hooking up the trailer. And then the process itself, just list the things that you want done and the things you don't want done. So you might put the things you don't want done in red, and you might put the things you do want done in green or black, however you want to do that. But just kind of list out what it is you expect to happen when they're hooking up the trailer in the step-by-step instructions on how to do that. And then the maintenance piece of this, in this particular case, is to test and make sure that the lights and brakes are working. But any other things you'd want to add to that, you certainly could. And then the unloading truck or trailer, come to the setup. We again have a link into our portal. What I have been referring to as a portal is the terminology I prefer, but it's a linked database inside of Notion. That's what they would call this, is a linked database. But we have that link to the drawings. If we click on them, those are the drawings. If there were multiple sets, you need to be careful that you name them in a way that you know which one is the latest and greatest. Then we can jump down to our process, and we have several things here, several reminders of things not to do, several things that they need to do in order to load the trailer. We have a fairly extensive list here of what we expect to happen as far as getting the cabinets from the truck or trailer into the house, where we want them to be placed, how we want them to be placed to protect them, and those kind of things. And again, you can expand on this, or you can pare this back some if you think that's necessary. And then once that trailer is unloaded, then we could go ahead and change this room status from delivery to installation. And if there were separate people, possibly. Some companies are large enough that they'd have a delivery crew go out and deliver the cabinetry, and then installers would come behind them and install the cabinetry. My personal preference is that somebody in a smaller vehicle takes 8 to 10 cabinets a day and goes, delivers and installs those as individual one-man crews versus the big truck, lots of people types of crews. Lots of windshield time involved in that. Now we can jump down into this installation procedures, and we're basically just going to look at the full access side of this. So these two here, and then we'll be done with this part, and we can just take a quick peek at the punch list and callbacks if we have time. So in the full access layout, in the setup, if you choose not to take photos in all the other processes, please consider doing this here. Start early with an empty room and then take as many photos through the day as you can. And obviously it would be advantageous to send some of those photos to the client. If you just upload them here, someone else could actually send them to the client. But we do want to get in the habit of taking photos. You can use them at any point in time, this before and after, this during, this through the process, and anything unique you run into. Take pictures of that and post those pictures. This supplies list is fairly short and sweet, but again includes the drawings because we're out installing the cabinetry. Also a reminder to take those pictures. And then in the process portion of this, several don't do's and several do's. Not really extensive, but basically my preference is that we lay out this whole room so that we find if there's a problem before we actually start putting cabinets up. I never want to have to take cabinets back down or move them on the wall. I always want to figure out if there's a problem beforehand. So I want to do a full layout. That's the whole point of this section. So lay out all of the base, tall, and upper cabinetry so we know if we have a problem before we start. If they've moved something, or if we mismeasured, if we've done what we should have done, field measured and double checked our field measurements, we shouldn't have a problem, but we want to find out if we have a problem before we start putting cabinets on the wall. And then because we're in the middle of the installation, all we've done is the layout portion, we don't have a room status to change here. This is a great time to let the builder, other subcontractors, let anyone else know if there's a problem that needs to be dealt with. Don't wait until the next day or the next week. Go ahead and let them know why you're in the process of doing that. Then let's jump down here into the full access installation. And in this one, the supplies you need is longer than any other one we've seen. because there are a lot of tools involved in installing, and we want to make sure we take all the tools in. If you've got a helper, then this gives them an action list of what to bring from the truck to bring in. You might have to identify for them. Obviously, it's better if your pack-in kits have all these things in them and all they need to know is, say, bring in pack-in kit 1, 2, and 3, or 3, 4, and 5, whatever, so that they bring in all the tools that you'll need. But we do have a fairly extensive list, and you see all but one have a link, so you could link to where you could purchase these or to learn more about them. And then before each project, we want to review the drawings. Obviously, we have the drawings listed as the supplies we'll need, and then we want to remove the doors, drawers, and adjustable shelves. And again, other people have different ways of going about this, but this is how we did it. We shrink wrapped our cabinets so that the doors and drawers didn't open while we were in transport. When I walked in with the cabinet, I wanted the doors and drawers to be that same trip. Even though I was going to have to clip them off and take them out, it still made sense to me to not have to make all those extra trips in and out of the house. To make a trip across the room to grab a shelf or grab a door is a lot better than having to make a trip out to the truck, depending on the job site and how many staircases are involved and how much mud and blood and beer is involved. I prefer to take the doors and drawers in with the cabinet shrink wrapped than to bring them in separate. But again, that's each to his own. Then when we jump into the process portion of it, we've broken into two sections, upper and tall cabinets, because we want to do that first, and then base and vanity cabinets. And you can see these are a little more extensive. I'm not going to touch on each one of these check boxes, obviously, but I do want to mention here that a laser level is really critical to a good install with full access cabinetry. So we've mentioned throughout these courses that leg levelers and suspension system is part of what we believe is the right way to do full access cabinetry, and a laser level allows you, utilizing the leg levelers and the suspension system, to get those cabinets dead level, dead plumb, and not conform to the wall. Someone made a valid point here recently in one of our Good Profit Group meetings, saying that the walls will conform to the cabinet if it has a 3/4 inch back in it. Well, that's true to some extent if they used metal studs, but if you've got wooden studs, your cabinets are going to conform to the wall, not the wall conform to your cabinet. And once that cabinet twists and bows to the wall, you're not going to get your doors and drawers to adjust well and easy. Another reminder down here about the installation photos, and again another portal into that surface hardware in case you didn't do a good job of gathering that information early on and getting that stuff chosen and getting that done in the plant where it makes sense to do it. Now you're having to do it in the field. It's probably going to add a third to the time that it takes to do it, because you're not going to be doing it at bench level. You're going to be doing it down on the floor and up on a ladder, and you're not going to be able to do it before you put the drawer front on the drawer box if that's an option. You're either going to have to take the door off the cabinet to do it, or you're going to have to do it on the cabinet. It's just not as convenient as doing it on the bench at perfect work height in the plant in air conditioning if your shop is air conditioned, that kind of thing. Base cabinets is just kind of same thing, just about base cabinets, talking about leg levelers as opposed to the suspension system. But again, you can see we've thrown a picture in here. This is describing fairly well how we identify where we're going to cut the toe kick material that goes around those legs. So if the finished floor is down, whether that's hardwood or whatever, we use blue tape so that we can just lay a spacer board on there to mark this line, and then we can measure from the wall out to here, and then we can measure from here to wherever the other end of the toe kick is going. Makes it easy to mark and cut, and then we'll just peel it back up before we snap the toe kick on. And another reminder to take the photos. We need lots of those reminders because we really want to do that. And then once we get done with the installation process, one of two things is going to happen. We're going to change this thing to punch list or complete. Hopefully it's complete. And if you've worked room to room, and right now we're only doing the kitchen, we're not talking about the whole house, we're talking about this room. If we try to start and complete a room as opposed to doing a little bit of everything in every room, then we can actually mark things complete. So ideally we're checking complete, but let's just say that this is a 3-day process and we've got more to do, and we think some of those things, or we have a few things that we need to bring with us on the day 2 or day 3. So let's go ahead and say we're setting this one to punch list, but ideally we would hope that that's complete. And as I said, we're going to skip these sections because it's just same thing but about face frame. Let's jump down into our punch list, and I do want to talk about this just for a minute. So I'm going to open both of these at the same time. So a brand new feature for Notion gives us what they refer to as subtasks. So you see that this list, this is a table view, has a little triangle to the left of it. And if I click on that triangle, you see I now have subtasks. Here's a task and here's subtasks. So the way callbacks used to work is just like this punch list. And so you would make an item for everything you need. So if you needed to do toe kick, crown mold, and touch up something and adjust something, you would need 4 of these items, and these items would move through this Kanban board from they've been reported, we know we need to do this, we've scheduled to do it, it's in progress, and it's completed. And that's a good way to do it. This Kanban board makes a lot of sense, but it does require quite a few cards, and these cards stacked on top of each other gets pretty long. This list is a lot more compact way of doing it. We're still doing the same thing, working from reported to scheduled to in progress by using a status, but we have a master callback, and we could also have a master punch list item that is room specific. So this is for the kitchen of this La Granada job, and then these are the actual things we need to do. And so at that point we can mark these as completed until all three of them are completed. This one would just stay at in progress once we start it until these three were completed, and once they were, this doesn't make sense what it's set to right now. If we've done any of these, this punch list for the room is in progress, and then as we complete this one, when we complete the last one, then we could say this is complete, the whole thing is complete. So I like this, and right now at the time you're watching these videos, this is how this is set up, where punch lists are more typical methodology using a Kanban board, because it does make sense to kind of push them through this process. But we're doing the same thing here, and we can have these subtasks. That's pretty cool. Glad to have it. I think it's going to help a lot, and I believe that most people will prefer this methodology. In reality, you can kind of do both. If I actually open this one up, I really like this part of it. You see that we have the Kanban board for those three items. Now I finished the last one off, so they're all in the completed column, but these are those items. So if I open up the master, I do have a Kanban board of the subtasks for the master, and they're working through a Kanban board. So that's pretty cool. That covers everything I wanted to touch on this 8th course of the procedures page, and completes the procedures portion of this course on the Custom Cabinet Planner. Thanks for watching.